Thank you so much to all of you guys who have managed to attend today. We are still continuing with our series of trainings, which is on the SunGrow line of products. And today we are looking at the iSolarCloud app, which is a monitoring platform for all our products and all the associated accessories. I believe it's one of the simplest platforms that I've ever worked with, and it's very easy to use, and it's also full of so many nice features that you really enjoy, and you find out that it's very easy to set up. So let me just play a short video for you to just get a picture of what this looks like. Okay, let me just look for video. So let me just start here. All right, so and this is the video on how to use it. I think as you can see here, all you do is you start by just tapping this site here on the home page to create a new plant, because when you start a new project, you won't be having any plant installed inside the app. So you need to tap this to add a new plant. Okay, and when you do that, you see these portions here. The first one is the plant name. You give it a name, any name that you choose. Maybe your client is called John, you can call it John Residence, or you choose any other name that will make you remember who is who and what is what, because in the long term, you will have a number of these. So you'll need to use a unique name for each plant. And then you also need to choose the type of plant that it is. Okay, there's about 5 types. There's utility PV, commercial PV, residential PV, residential storage, and microgrid, of which you know the type of installation that you're doing. If it's for a client who is entirely using a grid-tied inverter, it's most likely to be residential PV. If it's residential with batteries, then it's residential storage or some other utility, commercial, or microgrid type. Okay, from there, you then enter the installed PV power plant size. Okay, so how many panels do you have on the roof, and what power do they amount to? Okay, so if it amounts to 6 kilowatts, then you put 6 kilowatts there. If it amounts to 10 or 100 kilowatts or 1 megawatt, you put in that section. Then you choose, you also select the country or region where you're operating from. It can be South Africa, Swaziland, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Malawi, or any other country around the world. And then you also have to choose the time zone. The time zone is very, very important, guys. Otherwise, your system won't operate well. So your time zone, we know in Southern Africa, or let me just say Central Africa, Central and Southern Africa, we are GMT +2. Okay, so that is very, very important. So you would normally choose a time zone that is GMT +2. That is very, very important. The plant address is also important for your own records. so that when you have a challenge, you can easily go back. If you forget where is this client located, you can always go back and check. By the way, this client is located in Northern Cape or is in Northwest, then you can see how to handle it. So it also has an automatic feature to detect the location. So you can you can type the location manually, or you can let the maps actually do the work for you. That is the page on creating the plant. And then you need to also put in the grid connection type. Is it full feed in? Is it any other type of of a system? All right. Are you using a full feed in or any other mechanisms? Remember, different countries have got different regulations around this. In some countries, you are allowed to do full feed in. In other countries, you're not allowed. Right. So that is another important aspect there. You can then also put the owner's email address there. All right. So all those sections that have got red stars, it means they are required sections that you should fill in. All right. You should not skip them. Otherwise, the plant's image and the postal code of the area doesn't really matter most of the time, but those other sections with red stars are very, very important. You cannot get your system to work until you fill in those details. All right, so here you can also put in the feed-in tariff and also set the information of time of use tariff. Okay, of course that doesn't apply in most of our Southern African countries. It applies in other countries most of the time, whereby if you sell your electricity to the authorities, whether it's ESCOM or it's your municipality, there's a tariff that they buy your electricity at, which is not the same as the one that they sell you the electricity at. So you find out that maybe ESCOM might say they charge you R2.50, for example, per unit. But when they are buying from you, when you are exporting power to them, they might say they buy it R1.90. So that is what we call the feed-in tariff. And also, then there's also some information about time of use. Okay, remember, power companies charge energy depending on what time you use them. They are what are called peak hours, and then there's off-peak hours. So the cost is different if you use electricity from 6 to 9 p.m. and also from maybe 5 to 9 in the morning. The tariffs are different than any other time of the day. All right. So once you've filled in the information on that page, when you have created your plan and given and put in the details, you then have this section where you have to add your device. That is the YNET dongle or the IM4 that we said is plugged into your inverter for connection to the internet. All right. So you can use two ways to add that. You can, on the application, you can use manually if there's no QR code. If there's a QR code, you just scan the QR code that you can see there on your dongle. And once you scan that code, it will then identify the device and it will tell you what kind of device you have. So in this situation here, we've got a YNET S dongle, which is a communication device with a serial number written there. Okay, and then you have to tap confirm once the device has been picked up there. Then, whilst you are here, this is the section where it will show you whether your commissioning was successful. I mean, your plant was successfully created or not. If it wasn't, then you have to say continue commissioning. This option here, continue commissioning. If it was successfully created, then you just go back to the overview and see what your plant looks like. Right, so you go then after creating plant, you say continue commissioning. That is after selecting the device that you have picked up after scanning. Remember, you scan first, you see the device. If it confirms the device that you plugged into your inverter, then you say continue commissioning. And then from there, you now have to check your here. You have to choose the network. So this is your dongle that you've picked up. This is now the network, the Wi-Fi network that you're connected to. Whether it's a Wi-Fi network or it's an Ethernet connection, this is what you have to choose now, the network. From there, after choosing your network, it will ask you which one is your network here, right? In this case, our network is called home router. So we choose our home router network. That's the one that we are using. From there, you enter the password of your network and confirm. After which, you then have to check. Your dongle has got 3 indicator lights. It has got the run light, the WLAN, and also the LAN. Okay, the LAN is blue. All right. So once everything is okay and you've reached this stage where you've picked up the Wi-Fi network or any other network, the WLAN button, indicator light will begin to flash rapidly to show that it's now connected, right? And if it doesn't flash rapidly, it means something is wrong. You press this orange sun grow button there that you see, right? All right. But if it's automatically flashing already, then you don't need to worry. After that, what do? You have activated your network. This is now going to show with a green tick that your network is now connected. Your router is now connected to your inverter through the YNET S dongle. Right? And then from your network, after choosing your network, the next stage here is to initialize your device. What is your device? It's the inverter which is connected to the YNET dongle, right? That is the inverter connected to the YNET dongle. So you now initialize your device. Then it will show you what kind of device it is. In this situation, I think you can see this is a Sungrow 6.0 RS, which is a single phase hybrid inverter. After that, you choose your country and region, like we spoke here previously. You choose which country you are from, and when you do that, it will give you an option to choose the power company that is operating in your country. Okay, so in this situation, we have Australia. So Australia has got what is called the power company, right? If you are from South Africa, you will have Eskom or some other, depending on who you are connected to. All right. you have to go ahead with your settings, choose the power company. After that, so that your power company will be, your power companies will all be listed. Those that are available in your country will all be listed. It's not that you have to type them manually, right? So that is why, guys, I said it's very important to choose your region correctly, because if you don't choose your region correctly, it will give you the wrong list of companies, and your tariff as well and some other parameters will be wrong because you didn't choose your region correctly. Okay, so it's very, very important if you're from Botswana or you're from Zimbabwe or from South Africa, you have to choose very well. Don't choose the nearest country, choose your country. Okay, and then you have to come in and check the feed-in limitation values, which is going to depend on your country, obviously, and some other factors. Then your device initialization process is done. It will show with a green tick. Now, this part here must show you your inverter, which is at the top, right? Your inverter, the 6.0 RS in our case. Of course, you can have any. It can be a 33CX, it can be a 110CX or 10RT or some other type, right? It should show a green dot. The YNET dongle or the IM4 dongle must also show a green dot to show that the process has successfully been done, right? If not, then you have to say continue commissioning. If it doesn't show you these green dots after this stage, you have to say continue commissioning. Right? And if you tap that section of the inverter, the inverter of the green dot, it will show you all the properties of that particular inverter and the plant itself. Okay, so that is a short video on how the iSolarCloud app looks like and how it operates. I think it's quite straightforward. If you can see, the stages are quite simple and sequentially very easy to follow. Each stage will tell you what is required and the next stage, right? Just make sure that you've got everything that is required. So now we're gonna get into detail on how this whole thing operates. We're going to see how all these things operate. Let me just share my screen. All right, so this is the logo for the iSolarCloud app that you see if you go into the Play Store or the App Store, depending on which operating system you are using on your phone. This is the logo that you see for the iSolarCloud app. All right, so the iSolarCloud app is a mobile platform, mobile application used for managing PV plants. It can provide power plant operation analysis and mobile intelligent O&M services, that is operation and maintenance services. It is designed with functions such as display of plant operation data, rapid plant access, remote parameter settings, quick fault positioning and notification, and power generation and revenue analysis, achieving convenient and efficient end-to-end operation and maintenance. So what it means is you can actually monitor a plant from a distance, wherever you are, as long as you can access internet and your system is connected to the internet. You can also remotely set certain parameters if there is need to do that. Okay, it can also notify you if there's a fault, all right, and tell you the nature of the fault, and then you know what to do. Then you can also see how much power you're generating and how much you're using, and also the financial aspect of your power, right? To say today you have produced this much and you have used this much and you have exported this much to the power company, therefore you've earned this much money by producing this much power today. So it's quite a versatile and a very informative platform that we have there. Right, so the networking modes that this application generally uses, you can use remote connection, which requires you to have a connection to the internet, whether using 3G, 3G, 4G, or you can use a Wi-Fi and a router, all right? Or you can use direct login using Bluetooth between your phone and the inverter. But it's not all inverters which have got a Bluetooth function there, all right? So this one on the left, which is the one that is for remote monitoring, is more flexible because you can actually use it when you are very far away from your plant, unlike the Bluetooth one where you have to be in the vicinity of the plant. Right. So if you are using this one here, if you are using the remote one, the description is this one, which says you establish communication connection between the communication module and the home router or base station so that the inverter can communicate with the cloud server. Users can view the inverter data, or send instructions to control the inverter through the application. Okay, if you use the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection, which is the near end one, you can only view inverter information and set parameters. You can't send instructions. Okay, so there's a bit of a difference as to what you can achieve depending on what kind of connection you have. We'll see the difference in the few moments to come. Right, so I'm sure you have seen that on Play Stores and those platforms where we download our applications, there's been a lot of fake applications that tend to, mimic the real application that is designed by the original equipment manufacturer. So Sungrow has come up with a QR code that you can easily scan with your phone to take you directly to the application if you want to install it, instead of searching for it in the Play Store or App Store. All right. So once you scan that QR code, you can easily install the application on your phone without wondering which one it is. Because right now, if you go on the platform on Google Play Store or App Store, you might find that there's a lot, or at least a small number of applications that look very similar to that, which are meant to steal some very important information from people if you are not very vigilant. So you should be very careful, preferably just scan the QR code instead of having to search for the application. Right, once you have installed it, you'll be asked to check which server you're going to be using, depending on where you are, okay? So the default is the Chinese server, because Sungrow is obviously a Chinese brand. But because you are in Africa or somewhere else which is not in China, you have to click on switch, right, to check for another server. Normally, in Africa, you can use either the European server or you can use the international server. So, but preferably, we use the international server, right? So you then switch. After switching, you get options of which server you can use, of which I've said you can check the the international server. Then there's the process of account registration. The account registration is divided into two categories, okay? You can either register as an end user or as a distributor or installer. All right, as an end user, you can only view plant information as to what the plant is producing and what is being used. You can also create plans, you can set parameters and share plans. But as a distributor, you've got more options and more liberties to exercise when you're dealing with the iSolarCloud app. You can create plans, you can manage, you can install, you can maintain plans, you can manage users and organizations, as opposed to just being an end user. So depending on what you are registered to be, then you can have those privileges. Okay, the procedure of registering the account on the iSolarCloud app as follows. You have to tap register. Once you have chosen your server, you have to tap the register on the registration screen, and you choose whether you're an end user or distributor. If you're a distributor or installer, then you choose that. You fill in the registration information, including the server, which I've said, whether it's international or European or whichever. And then email, verification code, and then you put in a password. Then you have to confirm the password and the country and region and time zone, right? If you're a distributor or an installer, you can go ahead and fill in the company name and the code of the installer, all right? And then you also have to tick and accept the conditions of privacy, all right? And then you say register. From there, you can now log into the application. If you are logging in via the account that you have created, you have to make sure that first of all, you are already registered. You can't log in if you're not registered, just like any other application. You can't go to Gmail and just say, I want to log in when you're not registered with Gmail, all right? So you must already have registered for an account. You must have a password that you received from Sungrow itself or from an authorized distributor. So in the case of an end user, normally you would get it from your distributor, right? And then in the case of a distributor, you'd normally get it directly from Sungrow. All right, so step one is that you enter the account name and password on the login screen, and then you tap login. Right? If it's the first time before you've created any other plant, right, you would see the screen that is on the left. So this is the option you will see. Because you don't have any plant that is registered on the system, you will have to choose to create a power plant. But if you have been in the business for some time, or you have done it a number of times, you will see all the plants that you have created, which is as indicated on the picture on the right. Okay, the one on the right shows you that you've created all these power plants before, but if it's your first time, you'll see the one on the left. Okay, so if you check at the bottom of these screens, you'll see their icons. There's home, there's faults, and then there's me. Those icons are very important for you to know what they do and how to use them. All right, so there's home, there's fault, and then there's me. The home icon shows all the plans that you have been created and also the plans that are being shared with somebody else. All right, you can create plans and you can view plans and you can set plant parameters in the home section. All right, and then the fault section, that is where you tap to view all fault types and any associated information to that fault. So if an inverter reports a fault, you will see it under the fault section, and that is where it will tell you exactly what could have caused the fault, and then you will research in the manual on how to fix the fault. Okay, the Me section is where you can tap to view your Wi-Fi configurations as the owner of that account. So the Wi-Fi configuration, we assume that you are now in the Wi-Fi configuration section, which is under Me, right? The idea here is that your Wi-Fi module is connected to your home network. The reason being that we want our inverter to communicate with the iSolarCloud app server, and then you can view the inverter data and also send instructions to control the inverter through the application. Before you can do the configurations on the Wi-Fi, you already have to have an account and password, and the inverter must have been successfully connected to a wireless communicated module that is provided by Sungrow. And you also need to have the Wi-Fi name and its password, right? And the procedure is, the first step is that you enter your account, all right? You enter your account and password on the login screen and tap login to enter the app home screen. And then you tap Me, like I've said before, you tap Me, which is one of the icons on the far right of your screen, to enter the settings screen. And then you tap Wi-Fi config to enter the next screen. And then from there, you connect to the inverter's Wi-Fi. If you are using an Android device, you tap settings to automatically enter the wireless network screen. If you are using iOS, you manually switch to settings and then WLAN, you select the inverter Wi-Fi named in the form of, it's a serial number, which is like these ones that you see here. It's SG something something. Then you see the number that comes after SG is the serial number of the Wi-Fi module. All right. If you are not sure, you can confirm on the side of the Wi-Fi module. You will see that serial number. Okay. So any serial number that starts with the S, any Wi-Fi network that starts with the SG something something, that is a Sungrow Wi-Fi module. So you check which one it is if you have got a number of them installed around your premises. If it's one, then automatically that becomes the only one. And then step 5 is that you get a pop-up that you have connected to the inverter's Wi-Fi, okay, which also shows you which Wi-Fi it is, the SG something something that we have spoken about. And then you tap next at the lower part of the screen to connect the inverter to the home network. And then you enter your password, and you should see a tick once there is a successful connection. After which you click next, and you must see green icons and a green tick, right? And then you tap complete to see that the Wi-Fi configuration is complete. All right. And I'm sure you can easily see that it's a very simple process that you can easily follow. Maybe it might sound a bit complicated if you don't have the platform in front of you, but I've had my hands on it. I've done it very simple. As long as everything is there, the account and the account password, everything is there with your functioning Wi-Fi, you've got everything. It's a very straightforward process. Right, now let's see how to create a plant. By creating a plant, we're simply saying you're also adding Wi-Fi communication devices. So this applies to every other device that you can add to the system, which includes the Logger 1000 that we are yet to talk about, the Logger 3000, the communication device, which is your Wi-Fi dongle. So it's the same. There's a slight difference here and there, but more or less the same, right? First of all, before you can create a plant, like we said, you need an account and password, whether as an installer or distributor. In fact, you need this information, whether you're a distributor or you're an end user. You need an account and password. You can't just create a plan without an account and password, right? So the dongle that we use or the communication device that we use is only the SunGrow. It's not compatible with any other dongles that you might have anywhere, right? So the end user assigns the plant to the distributor or installer for management and gets the distributor or installer code from the distributor. Okay, so if it's Hudaco Energy, that is the distributor or something, then the distributor, Hudaco Energy, will get the installer codes from SunGrow and gives you, right? Then the distributor or installer will create a plant for the end user to get the end user phone. You should also need, as an installer, you need your end user's phone and email address, the phone number and the email address, right? Those are requirements when you're registering. And you start by entering the account and password in the login screen, like we said, and then you log in, and then you create power plant. You can also, like I said earlier on, there's a plus sign at the top of your screen that you see. That is the one you use to add there. You can then tap add device to add a device by scanning a QR code like we saw in the video earlier on, and then you enter the serial number and then you confirm. Right. So here, after that, you then fill in the plant's information. Here is a table that shows you the privileges that each person has, whether you're an end user or you're a distributor, right? The plant name is required, like I said. If it has got a star, it means it's a required parameter, okay? You need to give it a name. That can be done by an end user. It can be done by a distributor. That is why we have got two ticks there. And then the plant type, whether it's residential or commercial or some other type, you need, that one can be chosen by either an end user or a distributor or installer, okay? The distributor or installer code is supposed to be obtained by the end user, and then the end user gives it to the distributor to manage their plant, all right? Then the owner's phone number and email, that is supposed to be obtained by the distributor, all right? So the end user is the one who's going to receive text messages or emails from the system of iSolarCloud. The distributor creates the plan for the end user and can manage the plant. But it's the task of the distributor to get the user's phone number and email. Okay, the battery type. This only applies to systems that are going to be using storage. If it's a residential with a hybrid inverter, then it applies. If it's not, then we don't talk about battery type. This is chosen, can be chosen by the end user, it can be chosen by the distributor. The country origin, and capacity of the battery can be chosen by both the end user and the distributor. Time zone can be done by both. The location of the address can be done by both, and grid connection date on which you have started connecting to the grid. It can be done by either the end user or the distributor. And then after that, you then select complete to finish creating the plan, and you return to the home screen of the application. And then when you're logging in onto the Wi-Fi, like I said, you can only use the connection module that is provided by Sungrow, not any other. All right. First of all, if you're using a Wi-Fi direct communication, you have to, there are two options. Like I said earlier, there's user permission and admin permission. Whether you're a user or you're an admin, it is different. The privileges that you have are different. As a user, you can only view information in real time and see the power and power generation to start and to stop the inverter, and also upgrade firmware. But if you are registered as admin, you are registered with privileges to do operation and maintenance. Okay? You have got more privileges than those that are already given to the user. Okay? So before you can log in, you have to make sure that the AC side of the inverter is energized. That is, your AC power is on, and the Wi-Fi function of your or cell phone is enabled, and it's also within the coverage of the wireless signal. In other words, you can actually pick the signal of the inverter. You can see the Wi-Fi network with the serial number of the inverter. Right. Next, you need to then enable the Wi-Fi function on your mobile and connect the phone to the Wi-Fi network, which has got a serial number that starts with SG, like I indicated earlier on. You then return after logging in, after confirming the Wi-Fi network. You then log in, and then you enter the Wi-Fi password. The username by default is user, okay? Or you can use admin. And then the password initially is PW and 4 ones, okay? PW and 4 ones. You can then change it later, but that is the default password. If you don't perform the initialization process, okay, you can then enter a quick setting screen of initialization protection, right, after a successful login. Then you can boot the application and restart the inverter. Right? Like I said, we cannot emphasize that enough to say you need to have the region set correctly. Okay? And then this is the home screen. Like I said earlier on, this is what you see after successful login. One is the flow chart of the power from your PV to the inverter to the grid, right? That is what you see on top there. Two, you see the present power output of the inverter, what is being produced by the inverter currently. Then three, which is this one, you see the power installed. That is the power made up of your PV modules. That is where you see it. And then the yield of the day is number 4. You see how much have you produced today. And then the total yield is the amount of power that has been produced over the period since the inverter started operating. And at the bottom of the screen, you still have your home, your faults, and me. Okay, if you use Bluetooth login, like I said, you've got limited functionality. It's not the same as using remote connection. Okay, it's not the same. So if you're using Bluetooth login, you still need to make sure that your AC side of the inverter is energized and your mobile phone is within 5 meters from the inverter, and you shouldn't have obstructions between you and the inverter, because remember, Bluetooth is limited in terms of distance and also the materials that it can penetrate. And your Bluetooth function on the phone must be enabled. Right? The procedure is, first of all, you must tap login into the inverter and select Bluetooth, right? And then the Bluetooth will actually start searching, right? And then you see the serial number of the inverter that is closest to you. Cross-check with the nameplate on the inverter to see, is it the same serial number that you are seeing there? Or you can alternatively click the icon which is shown here and scan the QR code without actually searching for that. And then the default username is user. And then you enter the login password and you tap login. Like I said earlier on, the password is PW and 4 ones. Then you set your country, region, and everything else. Then it will initialize. Okay. And I think you can see here, the home screen after logging in using Bluetooth is not the same as the one that you have after logging with Wi-Fi here, right? They are different. I think you can see that. So you will have your date and time on number 1. Number 2, it will show you an inverter state. Is it running or not? All right. Number 3, you will see the power flow chart from your PV to your inverter and to the grid. Number 4, you see the present power being produced, and you also see the power yield and the power curve. All right. The rising and falling of your power. All right. And then lastly, you see the features, the home running for the record, and more. Okay, so you can use those as parameters that you can see. If you click on run info in the navigation bar, which is this one below next to home icon, you get the input, you get the output, you get the grid voltage, you get the grid current, and other aspects of the environment in which you are operating. Okay, so here, I think you can see it is showing us that MPPT1 has got 641 volts, MPPT1 current is 23.6, MPP2 is this much, MPPT4 is that much. The reason for that is, let's say you have installed 5 strings and you're not getting what you're expecting. You can easily see on this page which MPPT or which input is not functioning. If it's giving you 0 voltage or something lower than expected, then you can easily target that section without having to go through every other string which is working perfectly well. So this is the reason why we need to see the run info. Are we getting the right current that we expect from this string? Are we getting the right voltage from this string? Are we getting the power that we expect this system to produce? If you're expecting 8 kilowatts and you're getting only 4, you need to know what is happening, which string is not doing its work properly. Okay, this is the end, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll leave this time to those who might want to ask any questions before we call it a day. Those who might have questions, please let's ask our questions there.
Thank you, Eden. We'll just give a couple of minutes for the guys to type their questions. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat bar. We'll happily address them in there.
Okay. The presentation, I believe Daniel is recording the presentation.
Yes, we are. It will be uploaded onto YouTube later today. We'll send a link to the YouTube video as soon as it's up and running. Thank you, Noah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I believe probably there are no more questions. So guys, thank you so much for attending.